and just people. I think of that, just seeing the people. Every time you see somebody, it's just a face just screaming in agony is all you're going to see. I mean, nobody's going to be in hell just taking it easy. The whole point is everlasting shame and torment and contempt. It's not going to be a pleasant thing. I think of the visible torment. That's going to be rough on the eyes. I mean, there's some things right now. Maybe you're sitting there watching television, you're flipping through the channels. Certain things come on that screen, you immediately turn it off. If certain things pop up there, the first thing you do is either turn your head or flip the channel. You don't want to see it. No matter what, I mean, just all kinds of things we could discuss that could fall into that category. Listen, when it shows up in hell, it's right there. You got to look at it. You got to look at it. Right there it is. Whatever the wicked thing is, whatever the undesirable view is, what are you going to do about it? It's not a TV. It's real. There it is. You got to look right at it. You can't get away from it. That'll drive a man crazy. I remember when my dad was still living and going through all of his sickness and trips to Memphis and all that. I remember one night they called me and asked me to come get him and take him down to the Memphis emergency room down there and had to check him in. And this was my first experience, and I hope the last experience, of a big city emergency room. So I believe big cities are just plain up a devil. I believe there's something to the fact that Cain was the first man to build a city. I think he was a cursed man. I think there's something to that. Around here, you get something wrong with you, you go to the emergency room. I mean, in most cases, there's exceptions. Like when I hurt my wrist, that was an exception. But in most cases, you can be treated and taken care of pretty quick. I mean, you know, usually within an hour or so, somebody's helping you. Somebody's doing something for you. And within 2 or 3 hours, you're usually almost always getting some help. We sat down there. I went in that emergency room. We sat there. We left here about 6. We got there about 8. We sat there from 8 o'clock at night until 2 in the morning. And they finally got him back there to work on him and do something with him. 6 hours just sitting there. I thought, this is absolutely horrible. I started looking around there. I didn't see one smiling face in that building. Everybody sitting there. If somebody was in pain, or if somebody wasn't in pain, they had compassion on their friend or their relative that was in pain, and had a mother there with her son. He had a broken arm. Sitting out, I couldn't imagine, sitting out there with a broken arm for 4 or 5 hours. He had to wait with a broken arm. The guy sitting there holding his arm in his lap like that, there hurting in pain. These doctors sitting out here building, you know, $300,000 and $400,000 homes out on the lake, and the guy's up here with a broken arm, and you're not helping him. I just got mad sitting there looking at that. I thought, this is for the birds. I said, we ought to have better care than this. This is America. This is not some third world country. We got people all over this town that could come in and help this boy right now. See, right now. I mean, my dad wasn't in that much pain. He just needed some help. He just needed to get checked in and get some things taken care of. This boy was in pain. Sitting there, I've had broken bones. I know how it feels. I knew how he must have felt. And sitting there, and he had tears in his eyes. He was hurting. I looked around that place. I had old people, young people sitting there in pain. I just seen those faces. Immediately, it just occurred to me. I said, that's nothing compared to what it's going to be like in hell. That's nothing compared to people sitting in hell. Everybody's in pain. Nobody has any relief. I just looked around that room, and I thought some of these folks will probably wind up in hell, sitting there like that. And this worldly suffering ends, they'll wind up right now. I just seen those faces. I thought, man, that'd be horrible to have to. I couldn't stand to be a doctor. I mean, just people coming in complaining all the time, you know, and hurting and pain, and just seeing that. I mean, I'd get some satisfaction out of helping them, yes. But I think if I was a doctor, I'd want to be the kind that would actually be there and be helping somebody. And that bothered me going to bed at night, knowing there's people at the emergency room down there, you know, hurting and crying with broken arms and in pain. I'm here sleeping, you know, taking it easy. If I were down there, they'd get treated twice as fast. I'd have trouble dealing with that, I believe. But seeing that in hell, just seeing that constant pain, that constant suffering, that's gotta be a torment. Wouldn't that bother you, just to see that all the time? Just continually, somebody hurting and suffering. It's just always right there, just seeing that. You can't see a pretty face. I think these men in this world are always checking out women, you know, looking at attractive women, you know. You won't find any in hell. Isn't that something? Father wants to find some attractive sights to behold. He better not go to hell. He won't find any there. There won't be any there. I mean, people will be weeping, wailing, screaming. I don't think there's anything particularly attractive about a woman that's screaming and weeping and wailing and gnashing her teeth. I don't think that's an attractive sight at all. I don't think anybody else would think that. So they get to hell, you're going to have some horrible sights to behold. Number 3, there's going to be audible torment. Audible. Things that you hear. There'll be things that you'll hear in hell. It'll just, if you go to hell, it'll just be something that's going to wear on you. Just wear you down. It'll just probably drive you crazy. I mean, don't that happen now? Don't that happen now? You get to hearing something, just, kids, for example. I mean, they just get on your nerves sometimes. They get to fussing and fighting, and next thing you know, I think I'm just going to go crazy. I got to get out of here. Just walk out and go do something else for a while. At least you can. See, at least you can. At least you can just say, okay, I'm going to take a little time out now. I'll be at work sometimes, noise, or somebody gets to playing rock music or something like that. I get tired of being around that. I'll just pick up and go do something else. I just go back. I call it my cave, my paint shop back there all by myself. I go back there and nothing bothers me. I don't think even the devil likes that place. I just go back up by myself. Go back there and you shut the door and just paint for a while. I'm all alone. Just turn on my tape player, turn on the radio, do what I want to do. Turn on some good music. I'm shut out from everything else. I think, man, somebody dies and goes to hell. They're not shut out from anything. They can't get away from it. Imagine that. I mean, you hear me preach, you have to tolerate that. Imagine hearing me preach just all the time. You couldn't get away from my voice. That'd drive anybody crazy. Anybody's voice, not just me, anybody's voice. What if all the time you had to hear somebody other than yourself and the noise that they make? See? Whether it's a good voice or a good sound or not, it would drive you crazy. Just by constantly, just not being able to get away from it. And then put all that couple that with the fact that what you're hearing in hell is nothing pleasant at all. It's just screaming, weeping, and wailing and gnashing of teeth. You run over here to get away from it, it's there. You run over there, it's there. You can't get away from it. I mean, the majority of people who died went to hell. He said, broad is the way to destruction. The place is packed full down there. You can't run to get away from the stuff. And you got all that. The Bible says that fellow right there cried. It says, in hell he lifted up his eyes, verse 24, and he did what? He didn't say he said. It says he cried and said. That's a man crying out loud. He's in pain and he's yelling, making a loud noise. He cried and said, Father Abraham. That's a fellow yelling and screaming. He's in that pain, going through all of that. I've heard just random things. I can't even remember one particular instance, but just some of these, like on a news show where they show somebody going through some horrible pain, or somebody yelling for help or something like that. Just, I can't think of a particular case, but just something like that. That just sends chills up your spine to know that's real. You know what I'm talking about? You just hear, you know it's real. I mean, it's not just some movie or something that's going to go off in a few minutes and it's going to be all over. It was real. That was really a person, getting their leg cut off, or that was really a person, that was in pain. That was really a person that was dying or whatever. I mean, when you know it's real and you hear it, it just grabs you. It just has an effect on you. Imagine being in hell, knowing that every sound you hear is really truly somebody in torment, and they're screaming just like you. And you can't get it. You can't pull away from it. That's got to drive you crazy. I'm kind of the opinion that somewhere along the way, I don't know how long this man was in here. I'm of the opinion possibly that somewhere along the way, a man in hell just loses his mind. Maybe not. Maybe because you're not in your physical body anymore. And it's just the soul of this body, the soulish body. Maybe that somehow can withstand that, and designed to withstand that for God's own purpose, and you just keep your soundness of mind forever and just get tormented forever. Maybe that worked out that way, but man, if not, that somebody just lose their mind completely. Don't you feel like you're going crazy sometimes? You can't get away from stuff. You can't get along with little peace and what? Peace and what? See? We just say it. You just got to have some quietness. You just got to have it. In hell, you won't have it. There is no quietness. There's no quietness in hell. You got everybody screaming. You got all the roaring flames. That's a lot. You ever heard a lot of flames? You ever been next to a wheat field or something burning off? You get out there close to that and hear the noise. That's loud. You get up close to it, they get real loud. You can just drive down the highway, just drive down the road, roll your window down. If they got a pretty good wheat field burning off, you can hear it burning. And you're not even in it. Drive up in the middle of it and what you hear. See? I mean, it's loud. It gets loud. That get on your nerves. I think of that. I think of, you seen that picture last week, all that lava You remember that one section, all that outer core I showed you? We got a poster order, by the way. We're going to put it up around here someplace, just as a reminder, and what hell is, where it's at. All that outer core of that was liquid. Remember me telling you that? Liquid. Well, that's just lava. Just melted, hot, melted rocks. If you go to a foundry or something, you see somebody melting down metal and stuff, that stuff is red hot. Just orange, yellow colored, you know, and just liquid metal is what it is. They take that stuff and pour it out on a platform or the ground or something or other. It'll begin to cool off and harden. But if it stays in that thing, it's just always melted like that. Just always like that. And that stuff bubbles, that stuff explodes. Chemical explodes. Imagine all the elements. Every element you can think of comes from under the ground. Comes from beneath the earth in one form or another. Comes from, imagine all that stuff, and always explosions and gases and things going off and bubbling and all that stuff. Rocks, you know, things burn. Hell hath enlarged herself. Isaiah 5:14 says, imagine it burns for a good while in one section and burns some rock foundation or something loose. That thing falls into the lake, so to speak, lake of fire. Big old splash of that. All that stuff going on. That's all you ever hear. Boom, 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 boom. People screaming and carrying on. No peace. Nothing pleasant. Nobody saying I love you. You know, you go to the dentist. I've been to the dentist years ago. I used to have a lot of problems with my teeth when I was young. And you know, some of it was pretty painful. I had a rough dentist, and he'd work on. He's an old military dentist, and he'd work on me and get the drilling around in my mouth there, and it would really hurt. He had a sign up said the home of painless dentistry. That was just a lie. It was not painless. It hurt bad. I'd sit there and cry sometimes just about. And I'd go through that, but even in that there was hope, because I'd be thinking, you know, I'd look at the clock on the wall on my watch, I'd think, you know, probably only 30 more minutes, it'll be all done, I'll be out of here. That gave me hope, just to think, you know, only 30 minutes, just think about that. You'll be on your way home and going to go home and eat some supper or do this or do that. You'll be totally out of this place. A man in hell cannot think that. He cannot say, well, 2 hours or 3 hours or 2 days or whatever, this is over. A guy behind prison bars can check off the days on the calendar until he's finally released. He's got, you know, a little bit of hope. A guy in hell has nothing. He can check off 1,000,000 days. He's got that many more left. You know, we say when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. A man in hell says the same thing about hell. When you've been there 10,000 years burning, you haven't even started. You go 10,000 more, you still haven't started. You never get halfway through hell. You never even get hardly started, because it never ends. You're always just starting. That's the way to look at it. You're always just starting. When you get to hell, you're just starting. When you've been there 1,000,000 years, you're just starting. When you've been there 1,000,000,000 years, you're just starting. Compared to eternity.